The rain hammered against the concrete like angry fists, each drop exploding into 1,000 smaller pieces that scattered across the empty parking garage. Marcus Rivera pulled his security jacket tighter around his shoulders as he made his rounds, the beam of his flashlight cutting through the darkness between the concrete pillars. Thunder rolled overhead, shaking the building's foundation and making the fluorescent lights flicker like dying fireflies. He had been working the night shift at Meridian Tower for 3 years now, ever since Sarah died and everything fell apart. The pay was steady, the hours allowed him to be home when Emma got ready for school, and most nights were quiet enough that he could study for his recertification exam. Tonight was different though. Something felt wrong in the way the shadows seemed to move just beyond his light. As he rounded the corner near the south stairwell, a soft whimper stopped him dead in his tracks. Marcus paused, listening intently over the storm's fury. There it was again, barely audible above the rain, the sound of someone crying. He followed the noise, his footsteps echoing off the walls until he found her. Huddled behind a concrete pillar, knees drawn to her chest, sat a girl who couldn't have been more than 10 years old. Her dark hair was plastered to her head, her expensive-looking clothes soaked through and torn at the sleeves. When his flashlight beam found her, she looked up with eyes so filled with terror that Marcus felt his heart clench. Those were the same eyes he saw in the mirror every morning after the nightmares, the same look Emma had worn for months after the accident. Where in the world are you watching from as this story begins, and what draws you to tales of unexpected kindness in the darkest moments? Protocol dictated that Marcus should call the police immediately, report the unaccompanied minor and let the system handle whatever mess had brought her here. But as he crouched down to her level, keeping his voice soft and his movements slow, all his training from another life kicked in. This wasn't just procedure anymore. This was a terrified child who needed help. "Please don't call anyone," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the storm. "They won't understand. They never listen to what I'm trying to say." Marcus studied her face in the dim light. Despite the tears and the fear, there was something else there, an intelligence that seemed far older than her years. Her clothes, though torn and wet, were clearly expensive. Designer jeans, a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than Marcus made in a week. But it was her shoes that really caught his attention, custom leather boots that looked like they had never touched a sidewalk before tonight. "What's your name, sweetheart?" he asked, settling onto the cold concrete beside her. "Lily," she replied after a long pause, as if she was deciding whether the name was safe to share. "Well, Lily, I'm Marcus. And I think we need to get you somewhere warm and dry before you catch pneumonia. My shift ends in an hour, and I've got a daughter about your age at home. She'd never forgive me if I left someone out in weather like this." Lily's eyes widened at the mention of another child, and for the first time since he'd found her, she looked hopeful rather than afraid. The apartment was small but warm, filled with the gentle chaos of a home where love mattered more than money. Emma's drawings covered the refrigerator like colorful prayers, and the scent of last night's pancakes still lingered in the air. Marcus quietly opened the door, hoping not to wake his daughter, but Emma appeared in the hallway wearing her favorite unicorn pajamas and rubbing sleepy eyes. "Daddy, you're home early," she said, then noticed Lily standing behind him, still dripping and shivering. Her face immediately brightened with the fearless kindness that only children possess. "Hi, I'm Emma. Do you want to borrow some of my clothes? You look really cold." Lily stared at Emma in amazement, as if she had never encountered such instant acceptance. "Yes please," she whispered, her voice still shaky from the storm and everything that had brought her here. Within minutes, Emma had transformed into a tiny hostess, gathering dry clothes, showing Lily to the bathroom, and chattering about her stuffed animal collection as if midnight visitors were perfectly normal. Marcus watched from the kitchen as he heated milk for hot chocolate, his heart swelling with pride at his daughter's natural compassion. When Lily emerged wearing Emma's oversized pajamas, her dark hair towel-dried and her face finally relaxed, she looked like what she truly was beneath all the fear and expensive clothes. Just a little girl who needed a safe place to land. The two children settled on the couch together, and Marcus brought them steaming mugs, watching as Lily's eyes filled with tears of gratitude rather than terror for the first time tonight. The next evening, Marcus had barely clocked in when building manager Peterson stormed into the security office, his face red with indignation. His expensive suit was wrinkled and his tie askew, as if he had rushed over specifically to confront Marcus about something urgent. "Rivera, what the hell do you think you're doing harboring some runaway in your apartment?" Peterson snapped, jabbing his finger toward Marcus's chest. "I got calls from 3 tenants about suspicious activity, and now I find out you're running some kind of halfway house on your own time." Marcus kept his voice level, his hands steady as he continued reviewing the night's checklist. "She's a child who needed help, Mr. Peterson. I wasn't going to leave a 10-year-old girl alone in a storm." "That's not your job," Peterson shot back, his voice echoing off the concrete walls. "Your job is security, not social work. We can't have our guards picking up strays and bringing liability issues into this building. One lawsuit from angry parents and we're all finished." The radio crackled to life in the background, emergency broadcasts about the ongoing search for Catherine Wells's missing daughter. The billionaire tech executive had offered a substantial reward for any information, and law enforcement agencies across 3 states were coordinating the massive search effort that had dominated headlines for the past 48 hours. Peterson didn't seem to notice the broadcast as he continued his tirade. "One more incident like this and you're gone, Rivera. I don't care how clean your record is or how many commendations you've received. This building has a reputation to maintain." Back at the apartment, Lily sat cross-legged on the worn carpet, helping Emma with a puzzle while rain continued to streak down the windows. The domestic scene felt so natural that Marcus almost forgot this wasn't his second daughter, almost forgot that somewhere parents were probably searching frantically for her. "My mom is always busy," Lily said quietly, fitting a puzzle piece into place with careful precision. "She has meetings that go really late, and sometimes I eat dinner alone with just the housekeeper. I tried to tell her about school problems, but she was always on her phone talking about quarterly reports and market projections." Emma looked up from the puzzle with the serious expression she wore when trying to understand adult problems. "That sounds really lonely. My daddy always listens, even when he's really tired from work." Marcus paused in the doorway, struck by the simple wisdom in his daughter's words. He had learned during his years as a family counselor that children often expressed profound truths with startling clarity, cutting through adult complications to reach the emotional core of any situation. "Sometimes grown-ups forget that being successful at work doesn't mean much if you're failing at home," Marcus said gently, settling beside them on the floor. "Every child deserves to feel like the most important thing in their parents' world, at least for a few minutes each day." Lily's eyes filled with tears, but they were different tears now, tears of recognition rather than fear. "Have you ever felt invisible to someone important in your life?" Marcus asked softly, and something in Lily's expression told him he had found the real reason she was running. Catherine Wells stepped out of her black sedan into the building's lobby, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor with sharp precision. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her usually perfect hair showed signs of the desperate search that had consumed every moment since Lily disappeared. She had followed every lead, checked every shelter, called in favors from law enforcement contacts across the region. The building's front desk was unmanned at this hour, so she pressed the security buzzer with trembling fingers. When Marcus appeared on the monitor, she barely glanced at him before speaking in the clipped tone of someone accustomed to immediate compliance. "I need to speak with your building manager immediately," she said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who regularly commanded boardrooms full of executives. "This is regarding a missing child, and I have reason to believe she may have been seen in this area." Marcus studied the woman on his screen, noting the expensive clothes and the desperate edge in her voice that money couldn't mask. "Ma'am, Mr. Peterson won't be in until tomorrow morning, but I'm the night security supervisor. If you'd like to come up, I can try to help you with whatever information you need." Something in his calm, professional demeanor made Catherine pause. Most security guards either cowered before her wealth and status or became dismissive once they realized she wasn't a tenant. This man's voice carried a quiet competence that spoke of experience with crisis situations. "I suppose that will have to do," she replied, though her tone suggested she doubted a mere security guard could offer anything useful in finding her missing daughter. Marcus led Catherine to the security office, where missing person flyers covered his desk like fallen leaves. Her daughter's face stared back at them from dozens of photographs, and Catherine's breath caught when she saw how carefully Marcus had organized every piece of information about the search. "Tell me about your daughter," Marcus said gently, settling into his chair with the practiced calm of someone who had conducted thousands of similar conversations in another life. Catherine began describing Lily with the mechanical precision of someone who had repeated these details to countless law enforcement officers. 10 years old, dark hair, brown eyes, last seen wearing designer jeans and a gray cashmere sweater. But as she spoke, Marcus watched her face transform from professional composure to raw maternal anguish. "She's been struggling since the divorce proceedings began," Catherine admitted, her voice breaking slightly. "I thought keeping her routine normal would help, but maybe I was wrong to shield her from the details. Children understand more than we think they do." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He knew that voice, those exact phrases. He had heard Lily whisper similar words about feeling unheard, about adults who made decisions without explaining them. The expensive clothes, the sophisticated vocabulary, the way she had flinched when he mentioned calling authorities. "Mrs. Wells," Marcus said carefully, his training in family crisis intervention suddenly crystal clear in his mind. "I think there's something you need to know. Your daughter isn't missing anymore. She's safe, and she's been waiting for someone to really listen to what she's trying to say." Catherine's face went white as comprehension dawned, her perfectly manicured hands gripping the edge of Marcus's desk until her knuckles showed through the skin. "You have Lily? Where is she? Is she hurt?" The questions tumbled out in a rush of panic and relief that threatened to overwhelm her composed executive facade. "She's safe," Marcus assured her, his voice carrying the steady calm he had perfected during years of family crisis work. "She's at my apartment with my daughter Emma, probably asleep by now. But Mrs. Wells, before we go rushing over there, I think we need to talk about why she ran in the first place." Catherine started to protest, maternal instinct demanding immediate reunion, but something in Marcus's professional tone made her pause. This wasn't just a security guard offering opinions about child psychology. This was someone who understood the delicate dynamics of family crisis in ways that suggested extensive training and experience. "Lily told me she feels invisible to you," Marcus continued gently, his words chosen with surgical precision. "She said people don't listen to what she's trying to say. In my experience, children don't run away from physical danger. They run away from emotional abandonment." The accusation hung in the air between them like a challenge. Catherine's first instinct was to defend herself, to list all the ways she had provided for Lily, all the sacrifices she had made building her company to secure their future. But under Marcus's steady gaze, those justifications crumbled like sand castles against an incoming tide. "How do I fix this?" she whispered, the powerful CEO suddenly becoming just another frightened parent who had lost her way. Marcus pulled out his security badge and turned it over, revealing the faded credentials underneath. Dr. Marcus Rivera, licensed family therapist, child psychology specialist. The laminated card was worn from years of use, edges soft from countless sessions where desperate parents had sought his guidance. "I used to run the family counseling center at Children's Hospital," he explained quietly, watching Catherine's expression shift from confusion to understanding. "Specialized in helping families navigate divorce, trauma, and communication breakdowns. I worked with hundreds of cases just like yours." Catherine stared at the credentials, then back at Marcus in his security uniform. "Why are you working here?" she asked, genuine curiosity replacing her earlier dismissiveness. Marcus's face tightened almost imperceptibly. "My wife Sarah was killed by a drunk driver 3 years ago. Emma was in the car but survived with minor injuries. I couldn't handle other people's family crises when my own world had shattered completely, so I took leave that became permanent resignation." The office fell silent except for the gentle hum of security monitors and the distant sound of rain against windows. Catherine found herself seeing Marcus completely differently now, recognizing the quiet competence she had sensed but couldn't place. This wasn't just a kind security guard who had helped her daughter. This was a trained professional who understood exactly what her family was going through. "So when you say Lily feels invisible," Catherine said slowly, "you're speaking from clinical experience, not just opinion." "Exactly," Marcus replied. "And more importantly, I know exactly how to help you rebuild that connection, if you're willing to listen." The family tour continued through the motor pool where massive vehicles gleamed in the afternoon sun. Sarah dutifully followed along, nodding at appropriate moments while her thoughts remained fixed on the distant rifle range. Every few minutes, the sharp crack of gunfire reminded her of Saturday mornings spent in secluded woods, learning lessons her mother never knew about. Colonel Matthews had warmed to his role as tour guide, regaling the group with war stories and technical specifications that impressed the civilian fathers. He particularly enjoyed demonstrating his knowledge to the mothers, speaking slowly as if explaining complex concepts to children. Sarah noticed how he positioned himself to exclude her from conversations, addressing questions over her head to the adults. When they passed a display of marksmanship trophies, Sarah's eyes lingered on the names and scores etched into brass plates. Colonel Matthews caught her staring and smirked. "Those scores represent years of training and discipline, little girl," he said with barely concealed amusement. The other visitors chuckled along, assuming she was simply impressed by the shiny awards. Sarah's fingers tightened around the strap of her backpack where her father's dog tags lay hidden beneath notebooks and snacks. The weight of them reminded her of promises made over his grave, of skills passed down through whispered instructions and weekend sessions that officially never happened. Peterson's arrogance evaporated like steam when Catherine calmly pulled out her phone and showed him her company identification. Catherine Wells, CEO of Wells Technologies, the corporation that owned not just this building but half the commercial real estate in the city district. "You just threatened to fire the man who found my missing daughter and kept her safe," Catherine said, her voice carrying the cold precision of someone delivering a corporate death sentence. "The same man who, despite your policy concerns, showed more professional judgment in one night than you've demonstrated in this entire conversation." Peterson's face cycled through several shades of pale as the implications crashed over him like a tsunami. He started stammering apologies, but Catherine had already turned her attention back to Marcus, who was watching the exchange with quiet dignity rather than satisfaction. "Dr. Rivera," Catherine continued, and Peterson flinched at the title he hadn't known existed. "I'd like to offer you a position heading our new family wellness initiative. We're launching a program to help working parents balance career success with meaningful family connections. Your expertise could help hundreds of families avoid the mistakes I've made." Marcus hesitated, his pride warring with practical necessity. "I appreciate the offer, Mrs. Wells, but I don't want charity because I helped your daughter. That's not who I am." "This isn't charity," Catherine replied firmly. "This is recognizing exceptional talent in an unexpected place. I've spent millions on family consultants who couldn't accomplish what you did in one conversation. I need someone who understands that success means nothing without healthy relationships." 6 months later, Marcus stood in his new office overlooking the city, watching Emma and Lily play in the employee childcare center he had designed. The Wells Family Connection Initiative had helped over 200 families find balance between professional success and meaningful relationships, using the same gentle wisdom that had brought two broken families together on one stormy night. Catherine knocked softly before entering, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing the relaxed smile that had replaced her perpetual look of stressed urgency. "The quarterly board meeting went perfectly," she said, settling into the chair across from his desk. "The family wellness program is being implemented in 12 more cities next year." Marcus accepted the coffee gratefully, still amazed at how naturally their professional partnership had developed. "More importantly, how's Lily adjusting to the new custody arrangement with her father?" "She's thriving," Catherine replied, her voice warm with genuine happiness. "Both girls are. Emma has been such a wonderful influence, teaching Lily that families can be small and still be complete, that love matters more than luxury." Through the window, They watched their daughters building something elaborate with blocks, their laughter floating up from the childcare center like music. Marcus thought about the night he had found a scared little girl in a parking garage, never imagining that act of simple kindness would restore purpose to his own broken life. If this story touched your heart, let us know where you're listening from and what family means to you, because sometimes the most extraordinary transformations begin with the smallest acts of compassion between strangers who become family.